Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about content types. There have been some new content types that I want to show you how they work, and just review some basic things about content types and different ways to use them. So if you have a question, chime in and let me know. Screen shared here, so you'll see the same thing. Okay, so this is the content types page on the CMS website. So this is also available when you log into Terminal 4 on that dashboard screen. There are links to go. One of the pages it goes to is this page. So this has some tutorials about different content types and information about groups of content types. So in the common content types, that allows you to see the different kinds that you have access to displayed out all on one page. You can see sidebar content types. So there are certain content types that work in your sidebar if you have a left or right sidebar on your page. So your contact panel, general, staff entries, social media, those will work in a sidebar. And there are also special content types that you don't automatically have access to, but if you ask for them, you can use them. So there's a newsletter. If you have news stories, it creates kind of a preview like this. You can click on the read more and get a full page version. There's an image gallery that will spit out images from the media library and show them in a gallery arrangement. File listers does a similar thing, but with PDFs. You've got a bunch of them. It'll automatically make links. There's an embed type. If you're having trouble using embed code in the general content type, there's a tutorial on doing that. If it's not working, you can talk to me and we can use this one. It should work in those cases. Okay. So a couple things just to remind you about content types. So there's certain features that they all have. You can do, they're here in this action menu, most of them. So mirroring, you can show a content type on multiple sections, on multiple pages at the same time by mirroring it to other sections. Duplicate will create a copy of the content type and put it on another section. You can move them to different sections. You can view history. So this shows who edited it and when they last edited it. It gives you a history. And this is also a way to revert back to a previous version. You can choose make current. Also, when the content type is open, as it is right here, there's an options tab also, where you can set a publish date, an expiration date, or a review date if you want to be reminded to look at this content type again at some time in the future. So these can be handy if you want content types to disappear after a certain time. You can set the expiration date and you don't have to remember to go in and make those changes. So as I mentioned,
if you wanted an insurrection, you would have got one.
If you have a right or left sidebar, that is where all of the content would go, the content types, if you want them to appear in the sidebar. So if we preview this page, now I turn the sidebar off. Many different content. Okay, but that's where they would appear. If there's stuff on the left sidebar or the right sidebar, it's going to be there in a page called left or right sidebar. Any content type you put on those pages, it's going to show up in the right or left sidebar on every page of your site. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the new content types that we've added recently, the single column content types. So they allow you to have different kinds of content types arranged in various column sizes in different configurations, however you want. But they do require another content type to be used with them, which is called the row wrapper. So there are content wrappers in our list of content types. Let me just show you how this all works. So here I've got all of the single content types that are available. So here's our general, our picture link, YouTube, panel, and a contact us panel. So if I look at this right now in a preview, they're not in columns, even though in the content types I've specified a column width for them. And that's because there are no row wrappers used on this page. So if I add a row wrapper, if we just have to give it a name, sometimes it's just open row, can be whatever. And then there are some options you can choose. So we can just open a row, but we can also have different kinds of rows. So a row where everything is equal height, a row where everything is centered in equal height, or a row where everything is centered. There's also an option to close a row and open a new one. But we're just going to have a plain open row. Let's save that. So then it has to be in front or at the top. It has to come before all the other content types. Then I add another one where I want it to end. And for that one, I just choose close row. So all of the single content types need to be sandwiched between row wrappers. One needs to open it, then all the content types are there, and then at the end, you need one to close that row. So if I go back to that preview, now everything is in columns. So to show you some of those, if you haven't used these, they're all pretty similar. They are like the other versions of the content types. They will just have an option for a column size, which is done in percentages. So you can put as many of these single types as you want between two row wrappers, and they will just stack based on their percentages. So if you have 50-50, it'll put 2, and then it'll come down to this next row and place in the others. So you don't have to, for instance, in this page, I wouldn't have to put in 3 sets of row wrappers. Just one will do it. It just adds up to 100 and then goes to the next row. So the others in here, they're all pretty much the same as the standard content types. They just have this option for a different size to be put in. You can always go in and change these sizes. Another thing that you can do is if you set the row wrapper to center the content types, then you can have things that are not the full width, the 100% for each row. And it will just center them in the page. See, that one was kind of by itself, and now it's centered. So you could just have one content type in a row. Maybe you want it a little, not as wide as everything else and centered. That would be one way to do it, is using that centering.
Hey, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Patience. So on the YouTube embed single, that title right there, and then if you go back to the way it was looking, just the way the banner on the other piece of information there. I'm not using very articulate words right now because it's the afternoon. I'm sorry. Yeah, on the preview page, please. So you see where it says panel single, and then it says YouTube embed single. Would you be able to change the height of that panel single down to match the height of the video itself?
Yes, you should be able to, if you set the row to equal height.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know that was an option.
I have to find that with the YouTube video. Let's see if it does, and then I will know.
Thank you.
If it does that or not. Well, it makes it a little taller because of the margins. in the back.
Okay. Yeah, I was just a finicky thing that I was wondering. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, but there may be,
Because I think it's going off of the top of the text of the other.
yeah, I think there's a little padding at the bottom of the video.
Mm,
I mean, this does work best. The equal line height works best when you're using all of the same content types.
yeah, sure.
But this is a good point. So I'll look and see, run some tests and see if I can get them all to line up when they're different things.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. So the thing you can do, content types, a lot of them have themes. So for instance, general content types, both this one and the regular, have a set of themes. It's usually the last option. Wait for it to load here. So if I wanted this to have a dark or black background, I can just switch that on. Do that. And now it's like that. So going back to this content types page, any type that has a theme, it will show you what they look like. So if I go to the general content type here, I can see themes here in the side menu. And it will take me down to see what all of the different themes looks like. And these are the names, border, border top. This is what you're going to see in the list of themes in the content type. And this will show you exactly what that's going to look like when you use it. So if you have a question on what a theme might look like, you can check this content types page. And anyone that has a theme should be on here to show you what it's going to look like. Okay, any questions on that row wrapper? Does that make sense? The other one that has that is the accordion wrapper. So the accordion, we have a generic accordion that opens and closes and allows you to put content inside of it. The accordion wrapper allows you to put content, a content type or multiple content types inside of that open and close wrapper. So that's just a simple accordion wrapper. In the heading, that's what you're going to see as the text of that wrapper. You can pick a heading size for it. Then pick a theme, see the dark or light, it is dark by default. And then say this is opening the accordion. Save that. I can put any content type I want inside of there. So I could pick the 2 columns. I just need stuff in here. Like that. And then add another accordion wrapper to close it up. So now there they are, got an accordion, a content type, and a closing accordion. So in my preview, it'll look just like an accordion, but have that content type inside of it. So just a warning on wrappers. The other content type that is called a wrapper is the slider wrapper. The slider wrapper does not need to be opened or closed because it only works with one other content type, which is the slider slide. So you just have to put it on the page and it will work. It doesn't need to be opened or closed. but all of these others, any single type needs a wrapper, and accordions that you want special content types in need to be wrapped around, need to be inside of two wrappers. Any questions about that? Or questions on how to use that, or why you would use that, maybe?
Yeah, why would it be good?
So
Sorry, I'm a little bit late, so I might have missed a little bit at the beginning, but I did miss how to use it or why.
So for instance, on the CMS website, actually, no, Marcom might be a better example. So here we've got these picture link menus, and they're all singles. So the advantage here is you could use the standard picture links menu, which has 3 columns in it. But in this case, if I wanted to change the order they appeared in, that is super obnoxious with the normal just 3-column picture link, because you got to copy and paste back and forth. But if this one, I can just go into where they are in my content types. So if I'm looking at this page I've just been working on, if I wanted that picture link to come first, I can just drag it into that position, and now that order has changed. I don't have to do the back and forth copy paste to get that to work. Also, with these singles, you can control the width. So if I went back to the Marcom page and said, I want these to be 50%, so just 2 on each row, I could go back and switch them. It's just quite a bit more flexible than the content types that aren't singles. You're going to stack a bunch together. I always use the singles now, just because they're easier to manipulate down the road. All right. So now I'm going to show you some stuff with staff directories. I do get questions, and there is a tutorial on how to use them, but I think it's still confusing because I get a lot of phone calls. So I wanted to have a video where I'm just showing you how to do this. So there are different ways to display staff directory entries. So you can see here in some examples of different ways they can be laid out. So here's the standard, but they can also be put in a 3-column spread where the information is horizontal. You can have 2 columns, which is contact information, 3 columns with contact information, 4. You can have just the contact information, also a preview that goes to a full page version of it. And so you do this with a specific content type, the staff directory layout generator. So in order to do that, if we have a page where we want all of our staff directories to appear, let's say this is it, and I've got some on here already. So I want them to be on this page, but I want to format them in a different way, because if you just put them on a page like this, they're going to be just the standard setup. But if I want them to do 2 columns or something like that, then what I need to do is create a child page under this one, put all of those staff directories there, and then on this page, add that staff directory layout generator. So I'm going to show you how that works. So first I need to make a child page for it by creating a section. And this section has to have a very specific name or it will not work. And that is staff directory entries with underscores and all lowercase. If it is anything else, this will not work. It has to be exactly 100% that, because that's what the nav object that makes this work is looking for. Okay, so I've got that created and save it. Right, so I've got it under here. There is my staff directory entries. So now I can move all of those entries to that staff directory entries section. Just going to select all of them. And up here in the bulk actions, is the bulk move. Choose that staff directory entries page. Okay, so now they're all in there. So on the staff directory page, I need to add that layout generator. Layout generator. Staff directory layout generator is what it's called. Name it whatever. You could put a heading. And then choose which one of these you want. And you can always come back and switch them if you didn't like what you chose. So if I wanted to do this as a 2-column, refresh this page, I should give, yes. So now they're in 2 columns. I can go back to change that to whatever I want it to be. It just needs to have a child page with this name with all of the entries that you want to reformat in it. Questions on that? Okay. We are also just about finished with a very similar method for doing it, but it's where each directory has its own section and they're all children. Some people wanted to have more control over their URLs, and having them each on their own section does make that more possible. So if you ever wanted to do that at some point, that will be available, probably by request, because I don't want to layout generators in here confusing people all the time. So, okay, so no questions on that. Can you change the alignment of the rows? I'm not sure what you mean by alignment.
You already answered that.
Oh,
That was
okay.
from before. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so it can be, like I said, a lot of people, especially when it's a faculty listing, people use this preview to full page, which also has a 2 and 3 column version, because then you get a link at the bottom of the little bio here, or of the entry. Did that not change? Oh, because you have to save it. Let's try that. We got that full bio there. It'll go to a page. So if they want to have like their whole Vita and everything they've ever published or whatever, you can have it there on the whole page, so it's not eating up a ton of space on the directory page. Oh, and I did not make that hidden. So that's a good thing to remember. When you make this staff directory entries page, you want to uncheck that show in navigation, or it will show up in your navigation menu. And that's something you'll probably notice right away, because it's super ugly looking. Okay. So there are some other content types that I have not listed on that special content types page. They were kind of experimental for a while, and I was worried about overuse on those pages. Let me show you one, for instance. Well, actually this, the mark-on page is using it. There is a banner content type that allows you to have a big image like this that goes the full width of the page and can have a heading and a subheading on it. If you want to use this, it's one that we're very protective of, just because it could be overused and get weird. So it is enabled on a per section basis. So we only enable it on the sections where you are going to use it. A similar one with, there are also some background rows like this, where it goes the full width, and there's some different background colors. This one will only work if you're using this top navigation. If you try it with a side navigation or a sidebar, it will deformat your whole page. So it only works with this type of navigation. But that's also something that you should probably not use constantly. But if you do want to use it, let me know, and we can figure out how you want to use it and what you want to do with it. Does anyone have any questions about content types? Or something that you've seen on an ISU page that you want to do, but you're not sure how? If there's anything else I wanted to show you, that went by faster than I thought it would. If there's anything else new, I think I've covered all the stuff we've added lately that's new. One thing I will say is that we really don't recommend that you use sliders. They can be accessibility problems, and they're not used that often on websites anymore. So unless you have a real need to use sliders, because remember, a slider should always link to something. It shouldn't just be like a slideshow of pretty pictures. It should actually link to something and have some reason for being there. If you don't really need a slider on your page, we recommend that you don't have them. There are a few content types that we used to use that have kind of been replaced by newer, better content types. Let me show you some of them. So, you know, if you see them in the list, because they're still available because people had used them, we can't remove them from the list or all their content gets deleted. But this 2 columns wide left, the left column is wider, same thing with wide right, the right column is wider. I wouldn't use these anymore when you've got this 2 column adjustable, where you can pick the width of each column to be whatever you want. Those wide left, wide right they're just not that useful anymore. They were there when we first built the system because we didn't know what we were doing. And then we figured out how to make adjustable ones. So then they got a lot better. Another one is, oh, not on the list anymore. We did get rid of that one entirely. There was another one. Oh, sidebar panel. It used to be built specifically for the sidebar, but that didn't need to be that way. So just use a regular panel, not a sidebar panel. I think there's anything else I need to tell you. I get questions about a lot. Content types cannot be turned into different content types. You just have to make a new content type and put the content in it and delete the old one. Well, I think that's about it. Anyone has questions or wants to know something specific, if you're trying to do something, I can give you some tips on it.
Joe, can I just still verify, we do have that one form on our website. Is it still the case that you are still the person that updates forms, or is that something that we can do now? I know we set this up quite several years ago. And I don't know if I have permission to, or if you'd rather me make updates to that form every year, or if you still prefer to.
Well, I don't think you can access it.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I didn't know if anything had changed there.
Right. So your options for forms, you can use a Google form, and I have some tips here for embedding them and just using them. We all have access to Google Forms through our emails. So you can make one. I think they're kind of fugly, but they're convenient because you have control over them. Qualtrics also you can use. Qualtrics is for surveys, really. It's a research tool. I use it for certain things. You can't embed it on web pages. You just have to link to it. Form Builder and Form Stack are things you don't have access to.
Okay.
Form Builder is inside Terminal 4, but the way they've made it, it's connected to so many high-level things that I don't want that many people getting into it.
Mhm.
And then there is a Form Stack, which we only use if a form can't be made another way. If it's really super long or complex or needs to do something fancy, then we use Form Stack, but we have a very limited license with Form Stack.
Now, the way it works now is perfect. So if we just carry on with the way we have been, I am completely fine with that.
Okay. And while we're on forms and talking about embedding, isn't something I cover in training, but you can embed code in really any content type that has a text editor field like this. General content type usually works best. But here in the toolbar, you get source code as an option, and it will open up a window on top of the content type, and you paste your embed code in there, and then just save it, and it works pretty well. Every once in a while, the text editor doesn't like something in the embed code and we'll try to rewrite it, and then it doesn't work, but it works about 90% of the time.
Joe, what about Box with its, I think it's called file request form? You can have a link made that has like a metadata template that people fill out, and then they can upload a document or content to it, and it goes directly to Box.
Right.
Are we allowed to do that?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Financial
that was
aid.
like
Yeah, financial
big
aid
plan
uses
that I
it,
had.
and someone else uses it. And that, I can't remember, that might be one that has a little trouble in a general content type. I don't remember, but and you can try it, and if it doesn't work, just let me know. But that is, people are using that on the website.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Let's see. I'm covering everything here. Oh. Just a quick note about what I call helper sections. I can't talk. So that staff directory entries is one. There are certain pages you'll see in your branch that are lowercase with these underscores. They're always set to not showing your navigation, but like a right sidebar, your left sidebar, and your branch title. Make sure you never delete your branch title. Sometimes people go for a long time without logging in. They log in, they see it, they don't know what it is, and they're like, I'm going to get rid of that. If you do that, you will inherit other people's navigation menus, not the one you want. So that's basically what that does. It has a content type inside of it that you don't have access to. We usually set those just to make sure everything is working the right way. Another thing that can be done now with branch titles is if you would like to set up your own Google Analytics account, we can take that embed code for the analytics and put it into the branch title, and then it will be inserted into all the pages of your website. So you can track just your website with your own analytics account. If you want to do that, that is possible. Is anything else we have changed? Anything else on my list? So, also audio player. A couple people asked me to make this audio player, and then nobody ever used it. So if you want to use it, please do. So I don't feel like I made a content type for no reason. Child section list. That's probably one you don't use that often. What it does is if you place it on a section, it's going to look down and find child sections and turn them into a list of links. So that can come in handy. I use it here actually on this media library. If you click on media library right here in the nav bar, you get one of those. Because sometimes you just want to drop down. They don't really need to click on this, but they might click on it, and it is a real page. So that child section list can come in handy where you have a page like this media library, where probably no one will click on it because this is the more important stuff underneath, but there should be something on it for search engine purposes, and a number of other things. So that child section list can be very handy in that case. That's different. So on all these, when you're looking at this page, if there is a link here below, it's going to go to an explanation of that content type. Usually it will explain what goes into all the fields. It will show you examples of how it can be used, and then what the themes will look like if it has themes. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, that is all I have then. If you do have questions later, you can email me, whatever, and we'll try to figure out what's going to work for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.